All right, people, we are back after a short break, and I still have got questions, and I'm gonna ask those questions to you now, and uh, then I'll give the this dice to you,
Mm.
the podium to you. Um, Last time in our last chat show, a topic came up about schools and uniforms.
Mm.
And there was a thing where you mentioned your mother who kind of liked the concept of uniforms, and then again she was the same person who admired the concept of breaking the rules when these young ladies were in the college and they were wearing these saris,
Mm.
as far as I remember.
Mm.
And that was just in a span of 1 year, I guess. For example, when you're 16, you're in school, and when you're 17, you're in college. And
Mm.
what changes in this just 1 year span? What changes so much when uniform and rules? You mentioned that the mixed signals that we get in schools. For example, once you're told that you go run around like a crazy person in the field, and right in the next moment you're told to sit, putting your legs crossed, and you're told to wear uniforms, and
Mm.
right after that, after a year or so, you're
Mm.
in college, and
Mm.
at that point of time, breaking of these rules are not big crimes anymore. Rather, they are appreciated. They are very well welcomed. So what changes? What changes in this 1 year?
Well, one thing that changes is that the whole system changes. Your the parents are no longer wedded to the system.
Hmm.
And when the parents come out of that, and you see, we especially in my case, it was
Hmm.
not a jump in a few days or weeks between school and college. We finished our boards in November, December. Colleges started in July, August. We had this huge break.
Yes.
Some kids would join up for, kids who want to go to IIT and all, they would immediately jump into some course, which prepares you. They were already like in the rat race. Kids like me were
Yes.
not interested in all that. So basically, kids like me had that window of time to fool around. And
Yes.
fooling around is the most beautiful part of being alive. Fooling around is when you learn. And when you're fooling around, there's no initially it was so disorienting, the first day after the break, after the hollow, after school was over, all of us who were still in the city, we all lined up and went to school on the first day of school. We went very nervously. Now, we went in our colored clothes, feeling a bit silly, feeling a bit big and different, at the same time wanting to belong. So you see, what you lose is your sense of belonging. So I think in those 6 months, my mother may have had a little time to think things over also, as to what defines that sense of belonging, because she sees now her daughter floating around in the house like a bat without any clear occupation, and waiting around for those the time to come for all those applications, college applications.
Yes.
Even then, my mother, who didn't like the uniform, thought hostels were a very great thing, and she was doing her level best to kick me out of the house and send me to one of those colleges with a hostel. And I don't know what the whole plan was. There was some plan on their part. I mean, I won't go into that, because there's a backstory there as well. And you would be really amazed that in back then, right from 1973, there was some kind of a plan to sort of pack their bags and go shift away from here and go to Madras.
Okay. All right.
Now, what was behind the plan is something I won't go into. There's always the temptation of having your house, your own house, and your garden, and all the rest of it. But for
Definitely.
me, that house and garden and all that was like going, in a way, it is like going into the same thing. We draw these boundaries. You can play within those boundaries.
That's what I was talking about.
So it's that life was not at all appealing to me, especially because I never whenever we would go there for a vacation, we were in somebody else's establishment, following their rules. So it was never about being your own person and being free. And I think these 6 months away from school, not yet in college, they made me taste that freedom.
Yes,
That
they
freedom
certainly
was
did.
that freedom was too good to give up. And when we went looking at colleges all over the place. We went to some college in my teacher's daughter was studying in a women's college over there. So we went to see
Okay.
that college, and
Mm-hmm.
that college was like a jail. We went to meet her. We had to take all sorts of permissions.
Oh my God.
So okay, that was like, all
That.
your alarm bells start ringing at that point. And even my mother's alarm bell started ringing. And then she met us, then she escorted us up to a point and said, I will leave you here to go on your own because I'm not allowed beyond that point.
Oh my God.
So there is so much dissonance between what you can do, what you can't do. You see, like I would walk to school from my house because it wasn't very far when I went for sports practice or for swimming or whatever. But
Okay.
uniform and all, I was always dropped to school to be punctual. It's not as if I couldn't have gone to school on my own, but for some reason, I think I was just the pampered brat, maybe, or maybe it was just like really convenient to drop me to school, and I would come back in the school bus. I told you the school bus
Okay.
which went around in circles, and my
Hmm.
mother would always she would always be get her wrong end up as to why those days there were no one ways or anything.
Yeah.
There was no traffic. There was nothing.
There was no traffic
There was
exactly.
nothing
Yeah.
at all. So the school bus just had to come drop me and then go and drop the next person. But no, the
Yes.
school would drop for other people who lived further than me and then come to my place and drop me. So that irritated my mother. So you see, my mother had her own gripes with the system. But if you can't, the name of my upcoming play, which we made in 2006, was "If you can't join them, beat them." You know the saying, if you can't beat them, join them. That's
You're just
a common saying. If you can't beat them, join them. This
right.
that thing switched around. If you can't join them, beat them.
Exactly.
So that's the ultimate in rebellion.
Hmm.
It's not
Definitely.
just rebellion, it's creative rebellion. You do something, you do it your way. If you can't do it their way, then you figure out how to do it and do it. And there is a byline in that, like not a byline, a sort of subtext in that, which says,
Hmm.
but to beat them, you've got to join them first. How do you beat
Yes, this
them
is.
unless you join them, right? So that's the
Yes.
catch. And
That's the catch,
the whole
exactly.
theme of that screenplay is that.
This basically answers the question that I was about to ask. This has already answered that
Okay,
question.
so ask that question now. Let's see.
That question was that right now you said that you couldn't give up that freedom that you got, right?
Hmm.
But we give up that freedom so easily after passing out of our universities, our colleges, and we
Hmm.
give up that freedom so easily, and we join a corporate sector. We join somebody else's firm. We join as a, just as a gear to somebody else's big machine, and
Hmm.
something so
Beautifully
irrelevant.
expressed. Beautifully
And
expressed.
this answers the question that yes, if you can't join them, then beat them. But then again, in order to beat them, you have to join them first.
Yes.
So yeah, that answers the question.
Sometimes it takes a lifetime to beat them. Sometimes you can never beat them. And that's really the unresolved cadence, which where this, you see, in the Alien, they do beat them. They not only beat them, they reform them. They
Yes,
alienate themselves from them. They have somebody who bridges the two sides. They
yes,
have this sort of good angel who comes into their lives, because when
the
you're
good
that
teacher.
young, you believe in that good fairy who comes in and saves you.
Yes, yes,
So you
yes,
that good fairy does come in and save you, and he unites the two sides. There is no more war at the end of it.
exactly.
There's
The
peace.
conflict is gone.
The conflict is gone, all everything, which is why everybody gets up on the, it's almost like a Bollywood ending, except that it's doesn't have the idiocy of Bollywood. It has the innocence and idealism of the very young, of
Very
what
young
a
child.
young person
Yes,
would write. That's isn't that always the dream and hope of young people, that I should have a happy
yes,
family, all my friends should be happy, we should all be happy, we should all be happy in class, we should all do well in school. In That's how kids feel. Then parents poison them and make them feel, I should do better than this guy.
yes,
And you see that, hence
yes.
the Alien, because this, you have to do well in your exams, that thing
Hmm.
keeps, you see, when this kid is poked with that, he rebels.
Yes. Because this kid wants to share whatever he gets, but then again, his
Yes, he is
parents, I
not
mean,
interested in doing
Vijay's,
well in his exam. Vijay has
uh,
this idea of win-win,
yes, yes,
because Vijay
but
probably has had some sort of, even without having any exposure to Woodstock. Perhaps, see, Woodstock has a pretty seamy underbelly which no one talks about. People only talk about love, peace, and music. If you see the movie Taking Woodstock, you also know what went into Woodstock.
yes,
There's a movie that
yes,
came up much later by Ang Lee called, uh, you
I
may
had the
remember that
movie.
movie. You may have seen that movie. You
Yes,
must see it,
yes,
because it gives
I
you a
have
lot
seen
of
it.
perspective on Woodstock. And like
I have seen it.
I had a friend who lived through that time, and she said everything
Uh,
looked cool about Woodstock, but the kachra, the pollution. At the end
yes,
of it, all
exactly.
these people talk about peace, peace. We don't like this world which is hijacked by pollution, whatever. This
Pollution, hatred, and
this
everything
idea
else.
of pollution, but you come in your gas guzzling vehicle to let go of your vehicle and then sit there with your clothes off and say peace, peace, and sing. And you use a hell of a lot of polluting equipment also to get that gig together. I mean, all our gigs, I mean, we make no bones about it. We say technology, jai ho, and we go for it. But that generation was saying no, no, no to everything. They were rebelling. They said anti-war, anti-this, anti-that, anti-violence, peace, peace.
But then again,
And you
they
say peace,
contradicted
peace,
their
peace.
same
You
vision.
say peace, 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 and then you make war on your guitar and break it to pieces. And my mom was like, what the hell, This is Saraswati. Don't you
Yeah, I
dare
don't
ever do
think.
that. We,
Yes, I don't think that was rebellion. I think that was rather, um,
drug-induced
if
lunacy. More,
exactly
more like that was not
drug-induced lunacy.
rebellion. So
That was not rebellion.
our kids fall for it and think of it as a rebellious act, but it's not. It is one more
Rebellion would be.
idiotic act, in my
I
opinion.
mean, when you talk about breaking guitars, I immediately remember Jimi Hendrix. So, the
And
if you
I
talk about
and
Jim,
in your interview, unofficially Utopia interview, you jump on Scorcher also. He says something about burning guitars, and you say you're a third world country. You see, I had this
Yes,
conversation. I had this
yes, yes.
conversation with a boy who was feeling highly kicked about, those guitars these people burned were very cheap. I said, look, buddy, that guitar they burn may be very cheap for them. But there's a kid who is not able to learn the guitar somewhere because he doesn't have a few rupees to get a guitar. And we
Basically.
actually have this organization here, which is, I think, countrywide. It runs this music school for disadvantaged kids, and they keep asking you, please donate instruments which you're not using.
Really, I'm not
I've
aware of that.
forgotten
I
the
mean, I
name of
need to
that.
check.
During the pandemic, they were not able to do anything. Then that cyclone came, and their whole music room was damaged. So many instruments that had been donated all got damaged.
Is it happening in India?
It's happening in India. I'll tell
Okay, I
you
need to
the
check
name.
it out.
Yeah, I'll check it
Yeah.
out. You can check it out. A lot of people talk about it. I mean, I discovered it somewhere in 2019 or
Okay,
thereabouts.
okay.
Then
I was unaware of it. I need to check it out.
they lost a lot of somewhere in Baga Jyotin, Santoshpur, that side. Somewhere in
Okay,
southeast
okay, okay.
Kolkata. Somewhere
All
that
right, all
side,
right.
they had a setup, and they have it in different cities. They keep having these little gigs. They come on Instagram also. I'll just
Oh,
see my I lost so many Instagram accounts. All those I was following, I lost track of. I was following a lot of people. Now I don't go there at all, because when I go there, in next to no time, I'm hacked again and thrown out. So I've given up on Instagram. So
uh,
anyway, so there are these people who are doing this. I just forget the name. I mean, I've been exposed to.
I'll find
But
them.
you find out they
I'll
actually
find out.
ask you to donate, and then they take classes, and they were taking these classes online when they were not able to take them offline. But you see, at a certain point, I feel somehow learning a musical instrument, the touch and the feel, the teacher and the student have to really touch that instrument together. They really do, in
Exactly.
my opinion. I mean, if I were to learn the guitar from you, I would say, Roger, sit here, put your guitar here. Let's keep this guitar between us, and you watch me touch this guitar and make friends with it, or whatever.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the way
Yes.
I learned the piano.
No.
Everything. My teacher would sit there, and everything about, the fingers. See my fingers, see my fingers.
Yes.
She would hold my fingers. She would take my fingers down over the keys. It was absolutely fascinating. So you can't just learn to play an instrument like that. Internet, stop being unstable. Stop it. Stop it. Stop. Stop. I'm the teacher. You listen. Comply. Okay. So where were we? What was your question? You said I
Yeah.
answered your question, and I'm talking about guitar classes.
No, my question basically was that we
Why,
cling to that
why, then
freedoms.
how easily we break out of that? But do we have freedom in college? Once upon a
Uh,
time, we had annual exams in college. Then this god awful semester exam came. Then I just about got into college and thought, Arey, college is musty. And I'm suddenly told from this year we introduced something called continuous evaluation. I'm like, what the hell? It's
no.
like
The
it's like the cardiac monitoring. What are you evaluating? Some people accumulate everything in their heads, and then suddenly they have their light bulbs at the last minute. It's not like you're always following in class. Sometimes you pile up what has been taught to you in the class, and then you process it at your own pace.
yes. Yes.
So this continuous evaluation becomes a form of compliance. Rather the teacher should be available to you continuously for you to go and consult. The teacher shouldn't be
Definitely.
poking you to find out what you know. That knowing how much you want to know, how you feel about it, that comes from you. The teacher's job is to inspire you to do it, and that's it.
Exactly my point. Yes,
The
that's true.
teacher's job is not
That's
to
so
keep
true.
giving you a weekly test, and that guy feels bored also creating a test for you. What the hell? Sorry,
That's the thing.
I'm shouting. I
No,
need
no,
more coffee. And so,
no. That's all right.
I
That's
said,
that's
what
that's
on earth is this? So basically, this is grooming, slowly putting you into the groove. Of course, our professors were very, they were the sweetest things on earth. Like, I mean, sorry, the sweetest people on earth, and overall, and this continuous evaluation really ended up as a hoax. I mean, nothing much happened. At the end of trying to do all this, all that ended up happening is our exams would keep postponing, getting postponed, and finally, I think I came out. I took 7 years instead of 5 to finally emerge with a master's. I mean, okay, I don't think that degree of freewheeling should be allowed. There have to be boundaries, but maybe not a semester, for God's sake, 1 year. We had
exactly.
half yearly exams and annual exams, and the only thing that
Hmm.
counted was the annual exam. Then they said, no, we will count the half yearly as well. Then suddenly, when I'm in class 10, three exams in a year, what is going on? Please,
Yes.
have this monitoring, but have this two-way monitoring. I would much rather the kids examine the teachers at every point. These kids have to keep bothering the teachers. That should be the basic principle. It's reversed. The teachers are bothering the kids. The kids feel
Exactly, and that's the
whenever
reason.
they feel bothered, they want to get the damn thing off their hands, and they do it any which way.
Exactly,
So
and
where is
that's the
the
reason the
learning in
kids
that?
don't bother the
Where is
teachers.
the learning in that? It's what the housemaid calls kit kit karta hai. Kich kich karta hai. What is wrong? Why did you leave that job? नहीं नहीं मालिक खिच खिच करता है खिट खिट करता है.
Yes, exactly.
Nagging. So a
Yes,
student, when the teacher keeps saying, "Have you done your homework? Have you done this? Have you done that?" I think the kid should feel excited to do the homework.
true. Very true.
Rather, even more should feel excited to do the classwork, enjoy the class, live in the moment, absorb what you can, keep something in your buffer, because we all have that buffer. And then you go back home, you do what you want to do at home, and let the background job go on. No? And I think that's
Definitely.
what was happening to me, because
Right.
I'm sure I absorbed something in class. I read my books once. I would read the textbooks ahead of when the textbooks were given. I would read all the textbooks from cover to cover to see what went on over there. So you see, I'm going on my recce. I'm investigating what's coming up during the year. I'm curious. Most
You're mapping your path.
I'm mapping my path, mapping to the extent I can. There are so many variables, so many imponderables, but okay, I've had a look. I've had my preview
Yes.
now. I've sniffed around. I have an idea what the terrain is. I've checked out my teachers. I sort of get the idea what's coming. Okay, now I'm geared
Exactly.
up. Okay, now sit at home and listen to the radio, chill, read a book.
Exactly.
That
But
goes
you
on
see,
in my head.
this college life that we are talking about,
Huh.
your professors were so good, and then a lot happened in your life. Like you joined the IT, and then you left the IT, and then you rediscovered yourself. All these things. I mean, from your early 20s till you keep growing, and you keep thriving in the society.
Hmm.
All these things are so different from what we go through in school. No? It's
And
so different from.
it's very different from what you go through in school, but not everyone has the luxury of going through what I've gone through. So I think we have a
Exactly.
responsibility to make this process much easier for our kids, because
Yes,
all kids don't have that luxury, which means we have to
exactly.
spend a lot of time with parents.
And this is where the sharing part comes. Like I have the luxury. Let's say somebody else doesn't.
Hmm.
I can spare a bit of my luxury to that person, so it won't
Absolutely, you
harm me.
can. You
It won't
can. And
harm
you
me.
know, when we were kids, the funny thing is the teacher when the teacher wanted to get something off her back, she would get hold of a student, typically me,
Hmm.
to teach another student. It was
So
nice
you,
because I learned. I learned.
yes,
But I
exactly.
think that student
See,
felt a little at peace being taught by me rather than being taught by a nagging teacher. Maybe.
yes,
We'd sort of made
yes.
friends
You
over
see
the
this.
process. But what if the teacher and the pupil had made friends over the process? That was what the teacher takes a fat salary to do that. Those days, the salaries were not that fat. Most teachers, most people went into teaching, as a sort of added secondary income stream for the family,
Exactly.
or for time pass, or for whatever. Not
Yes,
exactly time
yes.
pass. Our teachers took their jobs very seriously.
No, they did. They
They
did.
took their
They
jobs very
certainly did.
seriously, but I feel the definition of their jobs could have been so different, so much more empowering to both sides.
Yes, definitely. It should have been. That should be the ideal scenario. You see,
Yes, yes.
the person who you are teaching, you were
Mm,
teaching back
mm,
then. You know, the same subject became more interesting when you were teaching the kid
mm.
rather than when the
Definitely,
nagging teacher was teaching.
definitely,
I
because I
mean,
would giggle
teaching
with
the kid.
that kid. What that kid found difficult, I was able to
Yes,
maybe empathize and say, no, no, it's not like that. It's not such a don't get scared of this. But you
yes,
have to be a
exactly.
kind kid to do that. There are bullying kids who will say, now I'm the boss. I will bully this kid I'm going to teach. Listen, give me a second. I just have to check something on the stove.
Okay, okay.
Where is this? Yep, I'm back.
Yeah.
And we have 8 minutes and 15 seconds. And
Yes.
this is a rather nice chat we are having, no?
Yes. It is. It is
Cheers.
definitely.
This is your
Okay.
metal guitar mug.
Okay. What's written there? It's 911.
911. Metal guitar
Okay.
911.
Right.
Hmm.
So a lot of things do change, Uh, it's like the example when you gave, when you were talking about if you wanted to learn an instrument. It's the same thing, communicating with the instrument and, making friends with it.
Hmm.
So that's what you were the catalyst for the kid, for the other kid,
Hmm.
to be friends with this subject that the teacher could not be, you know.
Hmm.
So before being a
The
teacher,
teacher
for being
didn't
a good
want to be.
teacher,
I think the teacher was lazy.
I mean that should be an ideal teacher, no? Who would be a catalyst, uh, for the
Or
kid to
maybe the
be.
teacher was tapping my potential. God knows what the motive was. Maybe I thought she's being lazy. Because my
That
mom
was
said,
for one day or a few
why
days.
do, mom would ask me, now what happened in school today? See, one good thing was that I opened up and told her everything.
Okay, right.
And then when I started in my second, I finished my second year, when I entered my third year of college, that is when our alienation started. There were certain changes, drastic changes in our family. And I won't go into those details here. They are, they won't interest anybody here. But whatever it is, that that had a very disabling effect on me. A feeling of, sudden feeling of being terribly disempowered, and a feeling of bondage to the system. And that
Yes.
sent me into a depression, because I had just about, my first year at Jadavpur University was not exactly a cake, because it was again a lot of alienation from
Okay.
school. School was my comfort zone. I had got used to this uniform and all. It was, I had got used to a certain, okay, I found my freedom within those boundaries. Then here I was, and again I was with this very different demographic.
A major change in your
These
life.
kids I studied with were coming from villages, literally. They had very different cultural background, and for them it was, they were being liberated in one sense. I was being liberated in another sense, and in another sense I was being constrained, because I was feeling like an alien among some of them, not among all of them. But then they were also stretching and reaching out to understand this strange creature in their midst. And
You know,
there is this, yeah, say,
uh, I'll reiterate something that you said to
hmm,
to you again.
hmm.
That is, this phase, we can define this phase as disturbing the comfortable. You know.
Yes, absolutely, 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 absolutely. So for me, it was the openness of of the campus, the openness, the freedom of that culture, as well as the sudden culture shock of, like as I say, from 35-minute classes periods, 50 minutes you had to concentrate. My goodness. And
Yes.
50 minutes, good heavens. And so it was, that's when I started, I became an expert doodler. And then later I checked out with my mother, and my mother said, no, I would also doodle in class. And she told me her stories of how she doodled in class. And not only would she doodle, she and her best friends over there would keep passing notes,
Yeah,
passing
that
these chits.
that's
Yes.
that sounds
So
so
I said,
relatable.
okay, in 1939, you were doing that. So it's okay that I feel sleepy in class and I feel bored in class. And you see, the other thing is, because the kids, it's a day college, basically.
Hmm.
Jadavpur was, despite having hostels, the focus was on having a day college, as in,
Yes.
for enabling people to come to college from their homes and go back, and from all various, so many people came by train. And
Exactly.
so, the
Yes.
timings were a bit odd. At
Okay.
10:20 in the morning we started our first class, and sometimes these classes would go until 5 o'clock in the evening. It was
My goodness.
I mean, it was something that I found very difficult to handle initially. Then I learned the great, I mean, I was, of course, inducted, or I inducted myself into the concept of bunking. And
See,
there was a
something new that you learn.
lovely campus to roam around in. So basically, you don't want to go to class. And I also realized that this whole thing of attendance was a hoax.
Okay.
Nobody really did anything to you for not going to class. So you take some time to learn the ropes. So
Yes.
you don't go to
And
class. When you don't want to go to class, you don't go to class. So
yes.
that rebellion sets in. Then by the time
Right.
of that year ends, everything there's this, as I say, there's this huge cultural difference. Or you've come out of a school where people are playing rock music in the band and all that, and then you come to, of course, things have changed enormously. But then you go to
Definitely.
college and you find the maximum number of people don't know a thing about the music you're talking about.
Exactly.
I have to say, our friends Mohin and Ghoraguli made a big change there because they
Absolutely,
bridged the two sides and they
Yes,
landed up
they
in the
did.
campus. I think possibly the last year I was there or the second last year I was there when they started that. Finally, our university had gone into a big slump, because it was closed for 2 years because of the
Okay.
murder
Yes.
of the vice chancellor.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
so you see, it was just limping back, and the teachers were trying to bring in some sort of discipline, but they didn't also. One came to understand that they couldn't enforce that much discipline because, let's face it, if they overdo it, God knows whose head will roll next.
And I
You
think we
never
have less
know.
than
I
one
mean, if
minute
they
left.
punish you for not having attendance, you never know. Next morning, they might not be there to punish you.
Exactly. That is
The
scary.
college had set up this drastic, that drastic precedent and that drastic reputation that be careful, you displease the students, your head will roll.